So to kick things off, I do start with the same boring ass question every time because I'm lazy and don't want to think of something better. It's a simple introduction, man. Let's do a little who are you and a little background on yourself.
What's up? I'm Echo. I'm a hip hop slash indie rock slash
Everything.
art hop slash
Yeah.
whatever. I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I'm out of Las Vegas. I've been doing this for like a decade. Um, let's see. We represent a thing that the fans kind of coined. Heart hop is kind of our subgenre of what we do. It's
Mhm.
just music from the heart. It's very genuine and just being yourself and representing just you and not authenticity, so
Right.
to speak. um yeah, I mean, that's such a loaded question. That who are
It
you?
it
Okay.
really is, but I think you did it very well. I say slash everything for you because it depends on who you're collabing with. Like you are versatile as fuck. Like you've got stuff with Loveless, you've got stuff with Low Spirit, you've got stuff with, all kinds of other rappers, and it you just are able to morph so easily into these different genres, and it's really pretty dope to see. um I want to talk about, you mentioned the art hop. um I think, it's this really cool thing. It's kind of what drew me to your music as well, is there's so much authenticity in what you're doing and what your message is. um it's obviously close to home, comes from the heart. What's it like, or what's it been like for you, leading up to this point, releasing music that's really so close to the chest, you know what I mean, and putting yourself out there in that sense of like, hey, here's me and some dope words, like this is my life.
Man, that's a good question. What's it been like? I guess I've kind of always been an open book when writing. For me, it's always easier to write what you know. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I think in a lot of ways I started off as a just a very bad imitation, as I think most people do. You start off just an imitation of whoever you grew up listening to, or whatever you like, or whatever you grew up kind of studying in that art form, or whatever it is. And so when I started out, it was just me trying to be like the people that I grew up listening to, and wasn't necessarily authentic to me, and not so much. I was trying to replicate something else, and you don't. It takes a while to understand, maybe not even just as an artist, but as a human being, that the best way to connect with somebody else is just by being authentic. That's it. It's not
Right.
me trying to pretend to like the same things you like. It's not what it's about. Because what connects is the passion for something, period. And if I don't have a real passion for that thing, it's not gonna connect. Something's gonna feel a little bit off. It might work for a little bit, but you'll get to a point where you're like, I don't really know who this guy is. And I see a
Right.
lot of artists who are so good, and I'm like, man, this person is incredible. A lot of rappers, I'm like, dude, from a rap standpoint, you could out rap me 10 days out of 10, dude. 100%. But the only issue is, like, when I get to the end of the song, I don't know anything about you. I don't
Right.
know your story. I don't get you necessarily. And, so for me, once I kind of learned that, I think I learned that when I made a song called Free Verse, where I was just like, I'm just gonna rap about the shit that I like, that I think is
Mm-hmm.
fun, that I think is cool, like inside jokes that me and my friends get, but nobody else does,
Yeah.
or you know, jokes that I think are funny, or references that I think are clever. Like, I don't give a fuck if you don't get this weird, random, niche Darth Vader like reference
Right.
that I made. But I think it's dope. And I'm like, if I was listening to this, I'd be like, yeah, dude, I get that. That's really cool that you said that, because that's something I didn't think anybody else would pick up on. So little stuff like that, I started kind of gravitating towards more, and being like, I should just be totally me. And initially, that started off with me more so just talking about the things that I like, comic books and TV shows, and references to YouTube videos that I thought were funny, or just whatever stuff like that, things that were more fun. And the longer, the deeper I dove, it just became more of like, okay, I'm just talking about me now, and the things that I've been through, and realize I have a story to tell, and my story is important. Everybody's story is important.
Mm-hmm.
So diving more into that has never really been difficult for me. The difficult part is sometimes letting the foot off the gas a little bit
Yeah.
and being like, I don't need to go. Not everything has to be so heavy, you know. You
Right.
can let the foot off the gas. You can do something that's a little more broad to reach more people. That's more fun. That can be, um, you can sprinkle it in here and there, but not everything has to be so heavy. But I don't mind going there either. It's never been. It's almost the way that I can do that is through music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think to your point there with like taking your foot off the gas allows some of the people that maybe wouldn't have attached themselves right away to the heavier stuff, right? Like you can gain some of that fan base that is going to dig into the discography and find something and go, oh shit, this is really cool. Like I get this, you know? But it may have been obscure enough initially that they were like, I don't fucking understand what he's talking about. So you have to
Yeah.
open the door to let people in. Um, Talk a little bit about, morphing that in. You were touching on it there, morphing it into the mental health side of things, because you do have some songs that are like pretty heavy, and I think it's an important message to talk about. That is not an easy place to get to, right? Like to be that vulnerable. How have you kind of coped with it and come to terms with what that looks like for you?
Um, I think I've been so therapized throughout my life. You know, I got sober. I went to rehab when I was 18 and got sober. I had a lot of therapy and group therapy in there, and kind of maintained, like 12-step groups and stuff like that. So I had a lot of. I kind of came up with a lot of experience in. I don't even know if it's necessarily vulnerability because okay. Here's the interesting thing about vulnerability, right? Is like a lot of things may come off as vulnerable, but what is vulnerability? And vulnerability for me now is whatever I'm talking about that makes me uncomfortable. Like if
Right.
I'm comfortable to talk about it, the stuff I talk about on my records, a lot of times I'm not uncomfortable talking about. So is it
Yeah.
truly vulnerable? You know what I mean? It comes off as a very vulnerable, a very open, a very therapeutic type thing. But for me, the vulnerability really more so comes down to the songs where it's like not about that stuff. I'm like reaching, this is not necessarily a safe space. Like I know I can talk about this. I
Right.
know I have this experience here, but if I move over here and want to have fun, can I connect on that level as well? So there's like two sides to
Yeah.
vulnerability, and sometimes letting people in to the good stuff, to my wins, to the things I'm proud of, to the things I'm happy about in fear of looking braggadocious or like an asshole. Like, can I do that? Like, that's a vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I can talk about my flaws all day long, whereas a lot of people can. But you
Mm-hmm.
want to start talking about wins and success and things you're proud of and things you love, then it gets uncomfortable, right? Like,
Right.
go have lunch with your friends and start talking about all the good things in your life, and you'll be like, this is weird, but you can
Yeah.
go shit talk yourself all day and everybody's like, yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
um so in a way, it's it is definitely therapeutic, but it doesn't feel like I'm risking much talking about it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Especially this at this degree of the career, right? Or this stage. Like you've done some of these for a decade now. So it's just another conversation. Whereas maybe the first time you performed it, it's like, okay, this is a little bit uncomfortable. But the only way, I have a mental health podcast and we talk about this all the time. Like the only way any of these things get any better is through talking about them and being more comfortable in that. So like I think that's kind of what you're saying too is um celebrating celebrating your wins is more uncomfortable because like you said, braggadocious, you get this feeling of like, cool, I had this really good thing happen to me, but their life's kind of shit right now. Like what do I, how do I make that balance?
Mhm.
um what's it been like for you, especially now? I think social media, you started out 10 years ago, social media was a thing, but it wasn't like the music platforms yet. What's it been like kind of transitioning to TikTok, Instagram reels, and trying to navigate those into those clips of like virality of, hey, this is really dope, come check out my show, There's something specific I want to touch on within this, which is the Vans partnership that you had too. You know, like those
Mhm.
things don't exist without social media. So what's it been like coming from the underground and pre-social media into this space?
Well, I mean, the social media thing is interesting because I remember I've kind of seen the waves of each
Yeah.
thing. I remember when when being a Facebook artist was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
like when you could really blow up on Facebook. And I kind of caught the tail end of the whole Facebook thing and the meme videos on Facebook of figuring that out. I definitely hit the tail end of the wave, but still caught a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And um I've always understood that this is the like social media is the way to reach people. Like that's just what it is. Like it was never something I really fought against. It's something I've
Yeah.
really more so tried to understand. And especially even like when TikTok popped up, I remember calling my friends, being like, dude, you getting on TikTok? Dude, you getting on TikTok? And everybody's like, no, 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 I'm not doing that shit. And I'd be like, bro, this is where the fans are. If there's my job as an artist is to reach new fans.
Yeah.
So if they're over here, I'm going. You know, and I moved over to TikTok. I wasn't like a pioneer or anything, but in my group of people, 100%, I was the first of my colleagues to really start trying to learn what was going on over there and figure it out. And you know, you can either fight it and you know, kind of disappear into obscurity, or you can try and understand that my job changes. You
Right.
know, my job changes. You know, I have one constant, and that is writing songs and making music. But all this other stuff is forever changing. The way it gets distributed, the way the content looks, and the way we go about making different content and doing different things. But the internet is an incredible tool to reach people. It's also incredibly toxic
Yeah.
and terrible for you. And it is really, really bad for your mental health and comparing yourself to other people and watching what other people are doing and the jealousy and the envy it can create and the anger and the insecurity, all this other stuff that it can definitely create. It's about, you know, if you can separate yourself from it and use it as a tool, then it can work, you know, and being able to reach people that you would never, you know, normally be able to reach and build communities and talk to people and all that kind of stuff. It's a great tool for that. And like, you know, with the Vans thing, that you're right. Not only would on so many levels that would have never happened because reaching Vans was only the first part. The second part was getting the flood of photos and videos and tags from people
Yeah.
who had been at shows and had their shoes signed and created their own shoes and stuff that and how much it meant to them and what the whole thing means to them and all that kind of stuff is a really cool example of watching the community that was built, you know, in one way through the internet to come together and make something cool happen.
Yeah, for sure. And then I believe it was Denver. Is that right? That you did the free show if you showed up in Vans and people could donate shoes, all that sort of shit. What's it like? You know, obviously you have trust in yourself and belief in yourself, but like not a lot of artists take that chance on. I'm going to do this community building free show. What was it like for you on that? Was it even a thought in your mind, or was it just a yeah, we're doing this, let's go?
I mean, it was definitely like Hail Mary, let's run this, let's see what happens. I think the most important thing for us, always at the forefront of everything we do, is the fan experience, right? Because you want to make sure that the people who support you feel special and they feel like there's cool things they get to be a part of and it is exciting and it is fun and it does feel different, you know, because at the core making music is great and I love making music, but it is a very solitary thing when it comes to the shows and the fan experience is like, you know, I think everybody wants to feel special. I think everybody wants to feel important and everybody wants to feel like they belong. And if we can do that for people, then, you know, mission accomplished. Like above any sort of monetary thing, like the money part doesn't matter. Like
Right.
if you can have a group of people, you know, when a lot of people came to that show were like, hey man, I work two jobs, I have kids, or you know, I work two jobs and I have a lot of bills and I'm not making much money and all of whatever it may be. And like I wouldn't have been able to come to a show if it wasn't free. And
Right.
not only that, but I show up and this giant corporation Vans showed up and told me, yo, you're important, and gave me a hoodie for free. Like, that's the shit to me, man. Like, there's nothing better than that. It was like a room full of people who feel like they matter in a
Yeah.
world where everybody's telling you that nobody gives a fuck about you. And for the most part, people don't. That's where it's at. My only insecurity or worry with the show is like, we're playing a free show, so we can't see what tickets are like. Is anybody going to show up?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was my only thing. It was like, okay, I'm going to have anxiety for the next month, not knowing if we're going to play a free show to an empty room, which would suck, you know?
Which also wasn't likely. I mean, based on everything, but I definitely get where you're coming from on like, okay, this whatever the cap is there, say it's a 1500 cap, like cool, 1500 cap, we did 300 showing up. Like that fucking sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's dope for those 300 people, but
Yeah, exactly.
no, it's crazy. I think it's an incredible thing too, because you guys are, that partnership. You've been working a lot with music cares, things like that, to help really build this community around the music, the mental health, and showing people that, like, regardless of your walk of life, like, music is where you can be safe. Music is where everybody is just a person.
Yeah, I mean, to me, growing up, it was like my favorite artist. It was like these people get me.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like seen, and I think that's incredibly important. You know, not even as a kid, big time, but also as any any age, or whatever you're going through, feeling seen and feeling uh like the way I feel isn't just significant to me. There's other people out there that feel the same way, is always important. And to be able to find that in music was something that growing up for me was everything. So to be able to provide that for somebody else is fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I say it as a joke, but it's also very serious. Like, I tell friends all the time, I'm never as happy as I am when I'm at a show, right? Like, because everything, all the other bullshit doesn't matter for that 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. So it's cool, and I think it does build, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, I think it builds a little confidence in those people too. Because now, okay, there's 600 people around me at this show that go through the same shit that I go through, that love the same things that I love. Cool, I can figure this out.
Yeah, it's like I always say, if you like the same music as me, you probably feel the same way I do on some level. You
Yeah.
probably think the way I think on a certain level, and so we have an automatic connection. And I hear that from people all the time. Like, if somebody's out and has like an EKOH hat on or an EKOH shirt on, and they see somebody else, they can kind of like automatically, like, boom. And
Yeah.
it's a deeper connection, because what you talk about music is deeper than just fucking random shit, and when it
Right.
is deeper, you have more to talk about. And there's depths to go in there, whether you want to talk about the comic book stuff and it leads into something you're talking to. Now you're talking about movies that you guys like and whatever. Then it moves into addiction, or if you got somebody in your family that deals with addiction, or all this kind of stuff. And that's the part of being a whole human being, and letting people see the whole part of your human experience is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those, this is a good kind of segue over to some of the collaborations that you've done, Hurt Myself with Nate Vickers, Hello Loneliness with Low Spirit. There's so many songs that you have that talk about these things. And I think it's probably not fully intentionally that you do this, but a lot of them also have guests, vocalists or whatever. And I think subconsciously that triggers people too, to the point of like, hey, Echo's not the only one that feels this way. He's got friends that are feeling this way, and joining him and spreading that message.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm lucky, I think, with a lot of the collaborations I've been able to do. Even when we talk about like somebody like when we got Loveless on a song,
Yeah.
that song Wayside was one of my favorite songs I'd ever made. And I was like, dude, I remember the first time I heard Loveless's him doing that chorus, I was just like, fuck. You know, like I feel it even more because as me being me with my message, there's a ceiling. You know, I speak in my terms,
Right.
and for somebody else to use their talents to come together and say the same thing is like incredible. And when you talk about, you know, doing the song with Senses Fail, is like that was like just for childhood me mostly because I was
Right.
such a Senses Fail fan. And I was like, oh shit, we could do a song with Senses Fail. Let's make a song right now that we could get Senses Fail on. But you know, even doing like a song like Hello Loneliness with Low Spirit is like I'm also very drawn to good songwriters
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I'm a fan before I'm an artist. So anybody I've had on a song is just because I'm a fan. Period.
Yeah.
And I've never cared if somebody does better than me on a song. I've never cared if I get outshined on a song because if I ask you to be on a song, it's because I'm a fan. And I hope you outshine the fuck out of me because that's
Right.
what I got for, you know? Like,
Yeah.
so in doing, you know, even Hello Loneliness was like, it started as my song Goodbye Happiness. And he hit
Mm-hmm.
me up and was like, yo, I really like the song. Would you want to like do a bigger version? And I'm like, yeah, I always envisioned it as a bigger song. So when we did it, it was just like, fuck, this is it. This is what the song was always meant to be. And that's kind of the art of collaboration as well. And working with people that are that talented to make something that cool. And
Yeah.
my next um my next release is another song with Low Spirit. And it's incredible. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
another one of those that is just such a cool message told in such a cool way that yeah, it's I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. And I think Low Spirit, we don't have to stay on him for too long, but like
We can
he's
stay
got,
on as long as we want. He's incredible.
dude, that's what I was going to say. He's an incredible songwriter, but his story is so fucking like inspiring as well, dealing with the chronic illnesses and being able to overcome a lot of the shit that he's had to overcome in his life. Um and like a lot of the stuff he's been releasing lately, I think goes down very like parallel roads with you as far as like addressing these issues. So for me, when you know, Hello Loneliness came out, I was like, oh, this is fucking dope. Like, because I'd listened to you for a while already. I was getting to know Low Spirit a little bit. So I'm like, this is fucking cool to see like these meeting of the minds, if you will. And then like you said, I'm a big Census Fail fan. So like going back through your discography, seeing that with Buddy, I'm like, fucking come on, man. Like, you know, 2012 Josh would have just ate that shit up as well. You know, it's
Yeah,
totally
same
cool.
too. I did. I was like, this is fucking weird, dude.
Yeah,
You know?
it's an insane world that we live in. I mean, then if you go into the heavier side, you did the song with Attila a while back, you know, so you've got your hands in so many different pots, and I think it works really well, and it opens doors for you as far as tours and stuff like that. Obviously, all these crossing fan bases, I think you probably can speak to pretty well, being in the industry as long as you have. Like, it doesn't feel as segmented as it used to. Like, everybody seems to be a lot more welcoming across these genres.
Yeah. And yes, if you're genuine, for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Because we all kind
You,
of shit on MGK when he jumped over to pop punk.
yeah, but even to me, like to me, I felt like that was a very genuine move. I know a lot of people thought that was
Yeah.
like, oh, you got crushed by Eminem, so you went. I was like, you don't just create what that dude created as like a scapegoat. Like that was
Right.
obviously works. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
just happened to line up. Um, but I do feel like it comes down to your substance and it comes down to whether or not you're being genuine to you and being genuine with your message. And if you are, you can carry that into whatever world you want to go into.
Yeah.
As long as you're not like changing up your shit and trying to be something you're not. And I think that was one thing that I've kind of learned, especially in this last year, is I think I fought for a long time to be accepted and respected in the hip hop world.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back now, I think there's, you know, in a way, it was almost kind of fighting like an uphill battle that was just kind of pointless. Because at the end of the day, what validation am I really looking for? What I'm
Right.
really looking for is to feel like I belong somewhere
Yeah.
and like I'm accepted. And I'm not gonna fight for that. You know, I'm just gonna be me. And if it fits, it fits and it makes sense. And you know, when I started doing the song with Attila, I did the song with Catch a Breath. And those are songs that was just like, okay, let me get in the booth and see if I can navigate this and figure it out. And you know, I've never done something like this before. You know, I've never done anything because I didn't think I could.
Right.
You know, I didn't know I had this skill set. I'd never even tried. So let
Yeah.
me get in there and try. And when I'm doing, I'm like, oh yeah, this feels totally normal. This feels fun. This feels like it totally makes sense. And it was like, okay, all this is really cool, and the fan base is incredibly accepting of it, and they get me. So
Yeah.
okay, let's try and make a couple of my own that is just more so, you know, further in that world, but still stay true to me. You know, I'm not gonna go like Bring Me the Horizon or some shit. Like I rap. At the end of the day, like I can bring that into, I can bring my skill set into this world and kind of just mesh everything I have into here and see if
Yeah.
we can make something cool, something that's a little bit different. And I think with songs like Hole in Your Head and Hurt Myself, or this one coming out with Low Spirit, and a bunch of other ones we have, like did that perfectly. And it's been a really easy, you know, it's been easy to make, it's been easy to put out, it's been easy to promote, it's been easy to play live because it just all feels right. And the
Yeah.
fan base is so dope. And they're just like, yeah, we're in it. And it becomes this whole, you know, I don't really listen to rap, I don't really listen to hip hop, but I like this. And to
Yeah.
me, it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's where I would rather be at than like, oh, here you, here's where you land on my list of my favorite rappers. I'm like, I don't fucking care, dude. I never have. I
T-
don't give a fuck where
top
I am.
three, right?
I don't give a fuck, dude. You
It's
know?
top three though, right?
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. I think with everything nowadays, it's a lot less, or at least in my friend group, I've noticed it's a lot less of like, oh, I'm a country music fan or I'm a pop punk fan. It's I like these bands, I like these artists, and that's dope because then it's I like Echo. Oh, cool. What does he do? Fucking everything. Like, go check it out. You know, it's not. Oh, I wouldn't listen to Echo because he's a rapper. Well, but he's not. You know, he does so much more.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing for me. Even when it comes to like features, I'm like, dude, I just do. If I like someone, I'm gonna try and do a song with them. Whether
Right.
it's whether you know whether I want to do a song with someone like Jelly Roll, or I want to do a song with Chris Webby or Tech Nine, or I'm like, yo, I want to do a song with Attila. I want to do a song with, yeah, Low Spirit, or uh, you know, if I'm into like, I'm listening to a lot of people like Grim Salvo
Mm-hmm.
and you know, Kamara and shit like that. I'm like, dude, I could do something there. I could figure that out. I could do something that would be me, but enough of that to where they could fit in too. You know, I like
Yeah.
the challenge of doing that too. And then I don't think anybody else reaches like that for different features or blending of sounds. And to me, that's what's cool. And I think that's what's exciting about following me, of being like, oh, you never know what the fuck I'm gonna do. You know, I might have a song over here that's like crazy, or I might, you never know what's gonna happen. I think
Yeah.
that's fun. It's fun for me.
Yeah. I definitely agree. That made me think of, you know, I grew up and still am a really big pop punk fan, but when pop punk artists, for the most part, when they're grabbing a feature, it's another pop punk artist. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, like Simple Plan's got this song out with State Champs. All right, cool. I know what that's going to sound like.
Yeah.
But something comes up and it's like, hey, Attila's dropping a new song with Echo. Like, oh fuck, what's that gonna be? Let's go check that out.
Yeah. It's fun to do stuff like that, man. I think you have to keep it interesting and hop over these genre lines sometimes and just try new stuff. And also, you never know what this fan base might like, or you know, just reaching new fans is always important as well. And sharing fan bases and stuff like that is just a really cool, especially like in the independent scene.
Yeah.
it's like we can do that. A lot of labels would be like, no, this doesn't make sense. We only can show one flavor of this person because we don't want to confuse our audience. And I'm like, you're not putting enough confidence in your audience to understand that
Yeah.
people can do different shit. And I think that's so unfair.
Well, and especially with like obviously the business side of it's the growth side of music, right? But like with all the analytics that are out there, all the data that they can get from Spotify and Apple, like you there's a reason that when you scroll down on Spotify, fans also listen to some of those connections are fucking weird for artists. And it's like, why wouldn't you let them take a shot on doing something extra? Because their fans are already wanting that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a tough area too because nobody's going to care about your career as much as you do. And I
Right.
doubt labels are like, oh, you know what would be sick if this person did, like, they don't give a fuck, man.
Right.
They're just like, yeah, do a reimagined version of our biggest song and put that out so that we can recapitalize on it. You know, just playing that whole game, which when it comes down to your bottom dollar, it makes sense. But where's the fun? Where's the excitement? It's just kind of
But
more of the same is never really that much fun.
yeah, and I was going to say, as an artist, doesn't that help or doesn't that cause a bit more burnout? Right? Like, okay, we're going back, we're doing the same fucking thing that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm that's my whole thing is like I want to fucking show you guys something that's crazy that you never thought was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And the excitement is kind of what, yeah, we'll bring different sides and different things to write about and new things. And that's why when you open up the door, especially to a new genre, it's like, whoa, there's so many more people we can do stuff with. And I know there's people like this From Ashes to New tour I'm going on, like I want to do something with Elijah. I think Elijah's really fucking dope. I think he's great.
Yeah.
Point North has been one of my favorite bands for years. I've been wanting to do
Yep.
something with forever. From Ashes to New is great. And I'm like, I can figure out a way to figure it all out. And
Yeah.
that's what makes it fun for me is being able to connect with different artists and people that are doing other things and have different ways of seeing music and seeing the world and different viewpoints. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Totally agree. And I think my buddy and I were actually talking about that tour package because for us, it's stacked as fuck because we both are big fans of From Ashes. We love Elijah's shit. Like it is one of those that I've already put in for the press side of it. Like I
Nice.
want to be at this show. Like fucking hook me up. My buddy, I think he said yesterday that he's already bought the tickets. Like he's in. And I'm like, cool. I'll see you there. So
What city you
let's
guys come?
it'll most likely be I have to look up the tour dates again. Are you guys hitting Indy? I don't remember.
No.
No, it's
I guess that's kind of close or not really.
yeah, it would be kind of close. I forget which date I put in for. I'd have to look at the full list again. I'll pull that up in a minute. But what I wanted to touch on, since you mentioned some of them, who's on your list of like I need to work with this person? Like this is the you mentioned Jelly Roll a minute ago. Like who's those dream collabs that you're working with or wanting to work with?
I think when it comes down to who I want to work, it really just comes down to like legacy stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people I want to do a song with Tech.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to do a song with Tech since I was fucking 13. You know,
yeah,
I've been
for sure.
following Tech since 200 people were showing up to shows. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a big one. And Davey Havoc, dude, that's Davey Havoc is probably my golden goose.
Yeah,
And also because he doesn't fucking collab with anybody, man. And I don't know why. It's like I doubt there's nobody going after this guy. I don't know
I
if he's just not doing anything with anyone or what's happening.
yeah, I
But
kind of wonder if it's maybe like a for kind of like you said on the label thing, like maybe not wanting to co-sign with anybody, like because if my name's attached to that project and then something happens, you know, whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it'd be interesting just to even have that conversation on like
yeah,
what would it take for you to want to collab?
Yeah, because like AFI is like my favorite band all time, and Davey Havoc is
Right.
he's the man.
Definitely at the top for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, looked at the list. Cleveland is the show that I put in for.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So
Fuck it.
yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But um, so yeah, I think you just dropped Mayday. We touched on it, and I wanted to dive into it a little bit deeper because this is one of those songs again that you're pulling from what conventionally would be called vulnerability. We already talked about how it may not be for you, but again, you're putting out this message, and it's this mayday call to friends, family, whoever's closest to you, that like, I'm not okay and I need someone to look at this. So was that, obviously talk about it however you want, but like, was that an intentional or drawn from a specific event with you where it was like, I need someone to pay attention, or was it just kind of life in general that I wish somebody would have said?
Well, I mean, even deeper on that song is not even necessarily. It's more so about not speaking up until it's too late.
Right.
And that's been a cycle I've been in my entire life, man. Is no matter what it is, whether you know in a relationship, if it's something you're hiding or not telling, I've had my own addiction.
Yeah.
I come from addiction. I know what it's like to have habits you fall into that you're hiding, things you hide, things you lie about, things you don't want to be honest about, things you're afraid to be honest about, that eat you up and start to affect the way you behave and the things that you do, and disconnect you from the people around you. And disconnection breeds isolation breeds more disconnection, and it breeds negative thinking, it breeds depression and anxiety and all these things, and that just turns into worse behavior and trying to get out of it, and that behavior creates shame, and it's this whole cycle that could have stopped if you would have just been open about it way up here. But
Right.
you wait too long, and it's the moment when the truth is coming out, and you probably have hurt somebody, you probably let somebody down, and everything's out. And when everything's out, I don't know if you know this experience of like when you have these blow up fights in a relationship or a friendship where you let everything out on the table, and then afterwards it's like, why are we so good right now? This doesn't make any sense, because we just had this massive fallout. But it was the first time that I was able to be completely honest, completely vulnerable, and completely authentic, put everything on the table. And once
Yeah.
that's done, we're connected because you see all of me and all this bullshit. And that's where the connection comes from. But it's always like, I'm not going to bring it up until everything's about to fall apart. And by that
Yeah.
point, it's like the ship's already fucking going down.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. I totally get you. And I think it's funny that you kind of word it that way because I'm 38 now. Last year I just got my mental health diagnosis. I've been dealing with this shit for 30 years, probably not quite 30, but finally something clicked that I reached that point where I'm like, I know what the answer is going to be, but I need someone else to tell me. So I went and got my mental health diagnosis, and it was what I thought it was going to be. But I think it's important to that message that you're telling, that I'm 38 years old and I just now went and said, hey, something's wrong, you know, like
what
that
was
should
your
have happened sooner. So I have major depressive disorder, severe level from a singular event, is how they classed it for me. I also have generalized anxiety disorder. Um, so it, it super sucks because like I'll get depressed about something, then I'm anxious because I'm not doing enough because I'm depressed about whatever, and I just get stuck in those cycles. Or the like meme or whatever it was that I saw the other day said depression is living in the past, anxiety is worrying about the future, and the problem is you're not living in this moment. And I think about that all the time now.
Yeah, being present can be difficult, man. I totally, I feel you there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I think it takes a long time to start to notice your cycles. And once
Right.
you know that you're repeating a cycle, then you're like, oh, fuck, I need to do something about it. But it takes a while. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't like, you don't see it like in your early 20s and shit. It's just like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And then eventually you're like, wait, I'm doing this to myself. I have a theme that I constantly do, and it's the same shit. And I've been doing it since I was like 10 years old. Like
Hmm.
nothing has changed. It's the same fucking hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And I feel the exact same as I did when I was 10 years old, you know,
Yeah.
in these same circumstances. So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. And it's rough. And I say that to say, like, it's never too late to go searching for that answer. You know what I mean? You have to at some point. And I'm a firm believer, you probably are as well. Don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, to me, everybody needs to go to therapy at some point in their life. I don't care if you're one of the happiest people on the planet. Like, there's some shit that you need to talk about.
Yeah, man. And I tell my friends that are in relationships, and nobody wants to hear this shit. I'll be like, yo, you know, couples therapy.
Yeah.
And they're like, and it's always the same answer. It's always like, we're not there yet. And I'm like, why do you want to wait? You know? And even little things like when I have friends that are like, yeah, we never argue, you know, and I'm like,
But but you should. That's
that's
not
not
healthy.
necessarily a good thing. You
Right.
think everything's good because I had a relationship like that. It was like we don't ever argue. It was like we don't argue because I'm not being authentic. I'm not, you know, I don't feel safe enough to be confident in my decisions and the things that I want. You know, I'm afraid that you're going to leave if this happens, whatever. It's never anything healthy,
Right.
you know, like disagreement is healthy from time to time and stuff like that. I just think, yeah, I think it's very important for people to go to therapy. Maybe, you know, once you start to notice those little cycles, you know, it's like once the student is ready, the teacher will appear type shit.
Yeah. But I think that couples therapy one is I've seen it in my friend groups and whatnot too, and the same excuse, like, oh, it's not that bad yet. We don't need that, or we're not ready. And the thing I told a buddy of mine was, if your arm was stuck in a wood chipper, how far up your arm are you going to go before you call for help? Like, how far do you want this relationship to eat you up and tear you apart before you go, hey, we need to talk about this? Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. Or I'll talk to friends. They're like, yeah, dude, we're good. We're like super good. We don't need therapy. I'm like, okay. Um, do you guys talk about sex ever? And most people are just like, well, no, like we have. I'm like, no, do you ever talk about it?
Right.
You know, what do I like? What do you like? You know, like, what do you feel about it? How is our sex life? What is this? You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like you can be completely open, or you know,
Yeah.
how how good is everything? Or can you ask the person you're with, like, how do you feel about us? Stuff like that. Like, nobody wants to ask those questions because it's the fear of what the answer might be. It's easier to just kind of pretend like everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree. I think it's interesting that so many people run those patterns in their relationships too. You see boys and girls, whatever, that jump from relationship to relationship, and it kind of always takes that same cycle. And it's like, okay, but I'm not saying that you're the problem, but I'm saying that something is causing you to not either open up or feel accepted, whatever it is. And that's where, again, that therapy, even if it's for the quote unquote stupid stuff, like, I don't like my job. Okay, go talk to a therapist about it. Like, what is causing you to not like your job?
Yeah, exactly. And it's there's so many levels to it, man. And it is, I think you're right. And it's being able to talk about it, or being able to kind of make the connections, go back and figure out where it's all kind of coming from. I used to think that like childhood shit was stupid.
Right.
You know, I was like, this childhood trauma is all bullshit. I used to think it was pointless until I really started diving in, and I was like, Yeah, dude, everything that I feel like started when I was like 10,
Fairly
15
young.
years
Yeah.
old. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like it's stuck there, and that created this pattern
Yep.
of who I am, and I've like built this whole narrative on all that shit, and still can't convince myself otherwise. And those, you know what they say, like whatever you don't repair, you repeat, and you'll
Yeah.
do that in relationships, you'll do that in everywhere. So yeah, I think definitely therapy is super important. And people be like, music's my therapy. I'm like, I get it, but also therapy is therapy. So I
there's a
also
big difference between I feel sad, so I'm going to listen to sad music, and I feel sad, so I'm going to talk to somebody that can possibly help me get past it.
yeah.
Like, I do want to touch on that a little bit though, because of how authentic and uh, personal your songs are. Obviously, you're having people come up to you at shows or DM you about their connection to songs. What's it been like to, in a, I don't mean this to sound mean, but there's not a way to say it that isn't. What's it like being forced to be that therapist or bouncing wall sometimes, where people come up and they're like, dude, this song, it means everything to me because of XYZ. And you're just sitting there going, wow, I've known you for 30 seconds. That was fucking heavy. Like, time out.
There's multiple sides to it. Is I'm not I'm not really a fan of it in like DMs. I don't think that's fair
Yeah.
because if I get hundreds of DMs a day and it's like I don't have the capacity, the time, the energy to like take this on, and then if it's like, oh, I just left it on red, then I feel guilty
Right.
for leaving. Like sometimes like don't do that to me. Like it's not cool. I don't want that. I don't want to wear that on my shoulders. At the same time, you know, I think it's important for people to open up and be real about something that's going on. And a lot of times, if I see stuff or people send me things and stuff that they're going through, I I can only give you so much, and so it's just like, yo, like I'm proud of you, or maybe you should seek. You know, what I mean, I'm never going to therapize them. I'm not a fucking
Right.
therapist, man. I'm never going to like give you advice on what you should do. My advice is always seek therapy, talk to somebody, find someone to talk to, go to a 12-step meeting, you know, talk to
Yeah.
somebody. In person, it is a little bit different because, well, first off, like meet and greets can be tough because it's like I have 30 seconds to a minute with you right now.
Right.
How do I make this feel like it was worth your money and your time? Like, what exchange are you looking for right now?
Yeah.
Which is difficult, man. It's difficult because I'm like, I don't know what I can give you. I don't know what you need. You know, I don't know what you're hoping for. But a lot of those times is like, I get if someone's like, yo, dude, this happened and it was because of this song that helped me get through this situation. And I wanted to say thank you, or I wanted to say, like, I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to share my triumph with you over this thing or what I struggled with and how I got through it. And I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel like I can necessarily give the situation what it deserves, but I'll do my best because I think it deserves something.
Right.
And you know, you want people to, again, you want people to feel, you know, important, and you want
Yeah.
people to feel like if they're putting their heart out and like pouring it out to someone who, you know, they deem partly responsible in some way, you don't want that to go unheard or, you know, tossed to the wayside. And a lot of people in a lot of places, they'll never meet the person
Yeah.
that had that sort of.
Responsible for it. Yeah.
So it can be difficult. I just always want to give what the situation deserves, and a lot of times don't feel like I am able to do that, but I try my best. And but I'm not. I like when people share those types of things. I do think it is cool, and it's definitely. I think it's cool to see.
Yeah. And I wasn't saying it as a like, fans should stop doing this by any means. But to your point,
No, I
there's
get it though, because there's a lot of times in DMs where you're like, hey man, like, don't fucking don't hit me with this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you can't do that to me, man. Like, you can't just, yo, I'm gonna off myself. It's like, why? What, dude?
right.
Like, come on, man.
Here, here's the lifeline number. Here's crisis text
Like,
line.
what do you
Here,
expect me to do?
yeah,
And that's just not fair to do to somebody, to put on someone else's plate, to put on someone else's shoulders, because you need something that you're not getting, because you won't open up to the people around you.
right.
You know, so it's easy to fucking throw it at some personality on the internet, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I've always said, you mentioned earlier that the internet's a toxic place. And I'm not saying that that's toxic necessarily, but like people often forget that there's still a real human on the other side of that. And so, like, whether it's trauma dumping, shitty comments, I hate your music, you know, whatever, like, there's a real person reading all this shit. Like, take that into consideration that I also have a life. I also have shit that I'm dealing with, going through, whatever. And to your point, like, I don't always have the capacity or the time to sit there and be like, dude, that fucking sucks. Like, let's talk it out. But also, I'm not a licensed therapist. So, like, you know, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. It does make it difficult. I mean, when it even comes like comments and stuff, there's a point of just like, you treat the negative ones, you know, with a, you can't let it affect you one way or another.
Yeah.
Like, I don't fucking care anymore.
No,
There's nothing I haven't heard. Every
right.
once in a while there'll be a good one, and I'm like, ha, nice. You
Right.
know, like, whatever. I can, you know, game can recognize game. If you hit me with something good, I'll be like, nice, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't I don't care anymore. And
But
there's the opposite side of like, the more hate you're getting, the better
yeah.
you're probably doing. And if
Yeah.
people are hating on you, you're probably not going viral. That's for sure. Uh, but the same thing with the love and the acceptance too is people can let that affect their process just as much as they let the hate affect their process. And so you have to kind of keep it out here a little bit. And you know, you want people to like what you're doing, but you can't necessarily let that direct what your next move is going to be, what you're going to do next, or what you're
Right.
creating. You have to stay true to you and not be influenced by love or hate, which is difficult sometimes.
Yeah. I forget the specific actor that said it. There was a clip that I saw from this little like round table of actors. Like, I think Jim Carrey was there, like Tom Hanks, whoever. But they make a comment about that with this too shall pass. Like, whether it's a bad thing or a good thing, this too shall pass. So like, you could be on the highest high, but you need to remember at some point this is going to pass. I have to move on to the next thing. And it's funny you made the comment that you don't let a lot of those things bother you anymore. It reminded me of the comedian Troy Bonds, and he's got some heckler, and he's like, "Look, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't said to myself 6 inches from the mirror. Like, I have been a terrible fucking person to myself. You're not gonna win."
Yeah, and it's like, what, I don't like, what's the end goal here? Like, I
Right.
don't.
You can't even see my reaction. So what the fuck did it really do? You know?
Yeah, and I mean, the toxic part of the internet is how it can become like a badge of honor to be like a troll.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
But
all
I get
stupid.
that too, and it's like, just fucking understand it, dude. I understand the internet's a weird place, and there's people who like to troll, and it's just what the fuck they do, and let them do their thing. You know, either let them do their thing and accept it, or get off the internet, man. You know,
Right.
you're gonna have a
Yeah.
really hard time in life if you're gonna let every fucking person's opinion dictate how you feel about yourself. That's just not.
It's not healthy, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, man. So as we transition to the end here, I again refuse to sit down and think of better questions. So I bought this game called Hot Takes. It's just like little shitty opinion cards. So we're gonna hit a couple of these, and then we'll transition to the end here. So
Hot takes.
uh, yeah, let's see what we've got here. Let's go with this is a dog shit card. Android products are better quality than Apple products.
Fuck no.
Right?
Not even close.
No. I,
Not
I've
even
got
close. If you use
I've got
Google Drive, you're a photographer, right?
yep,
You use Google Drive?
very rarely.
Please don't. Please don't. If I work as a photographer and they send me a Google Drive link, I'll be like, nope.
Yeah, if I'm especially if I'm sending stuff to people, if I'm collabing with like friends, I'll use a Google Drive occasionally, but I pay for Dropbox intentionally. I'll send you a Dropbox link. I've
Yes.
got I've got my own network server basically. I'll send you a link to jump into that and get your folder. Like I'm
Yeah.
not sending a Google Drive ever if I can really avoid it. I've got one friend that loves his Android phone, and I'm like, he constantly, well, our camera's better, and this and that, and I'm like, but it's not.
I could take a picture of the moon. I'm like,
Yeah, for
you're a
what
fucking
though?
loser, dude. Why are you taking a picture of the moon?
Right. It's so dumb. Let's see. Let's go with people should get a ticket for leaving their shopping cart in the parking lot.
A ticket? No.
I don't think so either.
It's a
Like if
little
you're
totalitarian, don't you think? You
yeah,
know?
a little bit. Now,
Like,
that being said, I'm going to say something to you if I'm trying to pull into a parking place and you left your cart there. Like, I'm going to be pissy about it, but it is what it is.
yeah, let the people police themselves, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also a
Uh,
thing recovery people will do is like, if you're at the grocery store and you're in the parking lot, round up all the fucking carts, dude. If you're having a bad day, go round up everybody's carts.
yep,
Think about something else, you know? So I don't think so. I think less policing, please.
for sure. New York style pizza is better than Chicago style pizza.
I mean, Chicago style pizza is not actually pizza.
It's a lasagna.
It's
It's
a pie.
bullshit. Yeah.
There is a pizza pie. I've been into Detroit style pizza lately, so
Solid
that's
choice.
yeah.
Let's see. And then let's go with the last one of this is one of those kind of TikToky ones. Water is wet.
Is that a hot take?
So it's been on TikTok before. People are claiming that water is not wet. The object is wet because of the water. Like water in itself is not a wet thing, but when you put your hand in it, it becomes wet because of water. And I'm like, but that the water has to be wet then, right?
Oh. I'm trying to think of another thing that would be like that.
And that's the thing. I can't come up with a another analogy similar that because like a towel, is the towel wet or dry? Like, well, the towel dries you off, so it becomes wet, right?
Yes.
So you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't get the water as wet one.
It's very good. That's something. Yeah, that's a very there's a lot to
We
unpack.
yeah, we could throw it back to the doors and wheels debate. Did you ever see that one? Are there
No,
more doors in the world or more wheels in the world?
wheels for sure.
Right? There has to be. But then people were like, well, but think about all the cabinets and stuff. And I'm like, okay, but my kitchen drawers have 4 wheels per one of the well, probably 8 because you have the slides too. Like, no, it's got to be wheels.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good
It's
question
got to be
too.
wheels.
It's
I
a good
say it's
question.
got to be wheels. Fuck it. Anyway, as we transit or at the end here, let's talk a little bit about 2024's plans for you. Obviously, you've got the tour with From Ashes to New. What are you allowed to talk about? You know, take the last however long it takes you, promote everything you've got.
I mean, that's it. I'll have a new song with Low Spirit dropping. It'll be next Friday, actually, next Friday.
Okay.
And,
This will
and
actually be going live next Wednesday. So right after
cool.
this
So this
episode goes live.
Friday,
Yeah.
we have a song coming out called "Good Enough." No, wait, it's not called "Good Enough." I'm tripping. That's his
I was
song.
gonna
It's
say
called,
he has a song called
yeah,
that.
I'm thinking his stuff. It's called "Good Things." We have a song called "Good Things" coming out. Yeah, the tour with From Ashes and Point North. That's going to be sick. I'm really excited about that. And there's a lot of music coming. Some more tours that are in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Not announced yet. I've also have a tour, like 5 dates with Chris Webby and Greaves and Ryan Oakes, which is going to be really dope. I'm really excited for that. Those are going to be monster shows. That lineup is insane. Webby's a
Yeah.
beast. Greaves is one of my favorite hip hop artists. Period.
Ryan is underrated as fuck. I've had him on the
Incredibly.
podcast. He's so underrated.
Yeah, and he hasn't really done a whole lot of touring, So I'm really excited that he's on this run, you know, and Webby and I have done so much together. So to bring him in is going to be really fun. I'm excited for that. So lots of music, lots of collabs, lots of cool stuff.
Awesome.
You'll never know what to expect, but it'll be cool. I guarantee that.
Hey, that's all we ask for. Obviously, I'll link all the socials and everything. For you, what's the preferred platform if people do want to connect with you? Not to trauma dump, but just to say, hey, what's up?
Wherever you're at, dude, I don't care. I'm on all of them. So
Fair enough.
wherever your stomping grounds is, come holler at us.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to what you have coming up. And like I said earlier, like I think you're in this really, really dope spot that kind of maybe feels like it's on the front edge of the music industry because you're one of the few artists that are putting your hands in so many different genres and kind of leading the way in this. We don't care as long as it's real, and that's what matters. And I think you're, like I said, right on the forefront of that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm putting in for that Columbus date, so we'll see if we can get something rearranged there and
Hell
link
yeah.
up at that show. So
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate everything and the kind words and for having me on. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely appreciate you, and I'll let you know when this goes live. So
Sick, dude.
dope.
Appreciate you, man.
Yep,
Care.
appreciate you. You too.
Be good.
Bye.